Linda Murphy here again to talk about another tool for Empowerment Toolkit. This tool is called visualization. I use visualization a lot as I was healing through my breast cancer journey, and I also use it throughout my life when I feel like I need to help heal my body. I use my imagination to create these visualizations, and it's a powerful tool. We are so powerful as human beings. We have forgotten about how powerful we are. And I had learned that visualizations really can work in tandem with many different things in order to help heal the body. So I'll give you an example of what I did really early on in my journey. I decided that when I was going through breast cancer and then it came to the chemo part, that I was going to work with the chemo in a holistic way to help heal my body by ridding my body of cancer cells. When I met with the doctor, I asked him many different questions. Obviously, the chemo was meant to kill off my cancer cells and to hopefully keep healthy cells available to help me move forward. And also, it was important that I kept up my red blood cell count, my platelet count, and my oxygen count. And every single appointment that I had, they took blood work to see what my count levels were before they would proceed with chemo for that particular day. And he said it was really important to keep those numbers as high as possible. So that's basically where I focused my healing powers, is to create healthy numbers for my blood counts. So what I did, I used my imagination, and I decided that I was going to create Pop and Dough Fresh Boys in my body. I had thousands of them marching in my body. They were like an army. And I decided in my imagination that I was going to arm them with laser guns. And in my mind, I visualized all of these Pop and Dough Fresh Boys marching through my body. And anytime they saw a cancer cell, their job was to blow them up with their laser gun. So that was one of my visuals. The other visual that I had, knowing that I had to keep my red blood count level up, I had this visual, my imagination, decided that I was going to work with hundreds and hundreds and thousands of red poppy flowers. There are fields and fields of these red poppy flowers, and red was to indicate to me the health of the red blood cells. So in my mind, my imagination, I had all these fields of flowers just swaying in the wind, and they were all so healthy, and they were also at different stages of growth. Just like our red blood cells are at different stages of growth, so are these red poppy flowers. And then for the platelets, I looked up online what platelets look like, and they look like flying saucers to me. So I had thousands of flying saucers swimming throughout my body, and I decided that I'm going to give a little boost to the killing of the cancer cells, so I'm going to arm these flying saucers with lasers as well. And then to do with the increase of the oxygen levels in my body, I decided that I was going to have thousands of red balloons floating in my body, and they're all filled with oxygen. So I use this visual all the time during my healing time with chemo. I would spend maybe 2 or 3 sessions a day just kind of going through the visualizations of what I was doing to help my body heal in tandem with the chemo. And every single time I went into the doctor's office, they took blood because they would not allow me to move forward with my chemo unless I had at least decent numbers for each of the red blood cells, platelets, and oxygen levels. Well, I blew it out of the water. The doctor was always amazed with how good my numbers were. And I told him that I worked on it at home with my visualizations and stuff, but he wasn't quite on board with that, but that's okay. I knew that I was working along with the chemo, and I was helping my body to heal really, really well. So with my holistic aspect of healing, again, with the chemo, we work together with that. I end up having a pretty good chemo experience. I did so well with my healing, and after my 6 months of chemo, and I was deemed to be healthy, I knew that I had a big part to do with the healing of my body with cancer. I had started to feel so empowered with what we can do with our bodies. It was amazing to me. I felt like I opened up a whole new doorway as to how we can work with our bodies. And it has just been amazing how I've worked with that. And I'll give you more of an up-to-date experience. Not too long ago, I had a cyst that had grown on my middle finger. And if anyone has had a ganglion cyst, they know how painful it is. It just fills up with fluid and creates a tremendous amount of pressure. And I had this for a while. And really, I kind of forgotten about self-healing. Why I had forgotten, I don't know, but it adds to the story here. So, I'd go to the doctors about it, and one doctor said, well, you need to get to a hand surgeon. And a hand surgeon is the one that's going to work with this cyst to remove it from your finger. So I went to the hand surgeon, and I asked him information about what's happening inside my finger. And he told me, how the cyst is growing and what's involved and this and that. I'm like, okay. And I actually made an appointment to have this surgery, to have the cyst removed. And then I think it was about 2 weeks or so before my surgery appointment, the office had called and said, well, the doctor's not going to be available that day. We're going to have to reschedule your appointment. I'm like, okay. So I rescheduled it for the month later. About a week before that appointment, the office calls and says, the doctor's not going to be available. We're going to have to reschedule your appointment. And then all of a sudden I had this aha moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not supposed to have this removed surgically. I'm supposed to heal this on my own. And all of a sudden it just kicked in gear. Like, oh, okay, I'll do this. So then I got my imagination working with my visualizations. And I decided that knowing it was a cyst that had a little bit of tail that created a situation to build up the fluid, because the surgeon had explained exactly what was going on, that I was going to have the fluid drain out of that cyst. In my mind, this is what my visual was. And I decided I was going to put God's hands underneath that finger where the cyst was, and God was going to just take all of the fluid out of my cyst. His hands were underneath. In my mind, I saw his hands working on removing the fluid from the cyst, and that was that part of the healing. I also know that when you create a void, as I was doing with my imagination, I created a void because now the fluid was in my mind leaving my cyst. When you create a void, you need to fill it with something, and I usually fill it with love. And in my mind, in my visual, I filled the void with a beautiful red velvet piece of material. It was soft, wonderful, and red indicates healing to me. So it was nice and beautiful and soft. And then I decided to plant flowers on top of the red velvet piece of material. And these flowers had heart-shaped petals on them. Everything was red. So this is my visual. I had the heart-shaped flowers that were planted on the red velvet material, and God's hands were taking the fluid out of my cyst. And about 2 weeks after my visualization, I spent about 3 times a day working with the visuals. About 2 weeks after, I would touch the cyst, which was extremely painful for even a light touch. I'm like, I can touch this with a little bit more pressure than I could before. Isn't this interesting? I think my visuals are working. So I continued to do that for probably another week and a half. Touched it. It's like, wow, this is getting a lot better. It is amazing. So probably at about 4 weeks, I was able to press with a tremendous amount of pressure on my finger. No pain whatsoever. The bulging part of the cyst that was poking out underneath the skin is no longer there. It has taken a little while to go through its permanent healing, but I have had no pain. And it was kind of like a reality check for me. It's like, oh yeah, we have the power to heal ourselves. What was I thinking? So I just really appreciate the fact that I actually did go through the process of making those 2 surgery appointments, because that kind of kicked me in gear and says, no, I can heal myself. So I thought I'd share those stories with you about visualization and how wonderful our imagination is to create whatever visualization that we want to help our bodies heal. It's a really powerful, powerful tool for our Empowerment Toolbox. All right, until next time, bye-bye now.